From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your afternoon update.
You want to go where to buy a new refrigerator? Steve's A to Z Appliance in Cottonwood? In Cottonwood? Just a 10-minute drive. And they'll save us money. New and used, honest, reliable, factory-trained repair service and parts, and they'll save us money. And dispose of this thing? We gotta make the short drive to Steve's A to Z. Thanks, son.
Steve's A to Z Appliance, front and main streets in Cottonwood. Drive a little, save a lot.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm meteorologist Mike Krueger. It's summer-like temperatures. That's what we have for the rest of this week, through the weekend, and even into at least the middle of next week, if not longer. And we expect continued gusty north winds. They'll probably be picking up here later this afternoon and evening, and especially going into tomorrow morning. That's going to elevate that fire weather risk today and possibly even tomorrow. Possible mountain showers and thunderstorms here probably sometime toward the second half of the weekend. I'm slightly concerned about maybe some dry lightning, but it's maybe a little early in the season to be terribly concerned about it. We'll have to watch that closely, though. Cooling trend going into next week. Still hot, but it looks like we're going to start to shave off some degrees from those temperatures here as we take you through next week, and a possible decent cool down at least near the end of next week. Possible, though. There's a look at your neighborhood forecast at a quick glance. Temperatures upper 90s to about 100 degrees in the valley. We're talking 60s for the coast and 80s for most of the higher elevations, although in Trinity County and inland, you're looking at temperatures somewhere in the 90s for those daytime highs. Of course, that's thanks to the ridge of high pressure over the eastern Pacific and western United States, but that low pressure down to our south. You see that spin? You see the clouds over Southern California? That's low pressure. And that combined with high pressure building in, that's going to give us that high fire danger. So taking a look at your fire weather risk here and fire weather forecast, you can see the winds are picking up later this afternoon, 20, 25 miles per hour for the valley, and even the mountains, seeing those winds beginning to pick up as well. Notice too, still pretty gusty out along the coast. Tomorrow morning, this is when I'm a little bit more concerned about those winds, as they will pick up still from the north, gusting upwards of 20 to 30 miles per hour, and still pretty gusty even along the coast. Taking wind to tomorrow afternoon, the winds do subside a bit, but still gusty, 20 to 25 miles per hour. And look at Crescent City, over 30 miles per hour there. The good news is those winds, at least for the valley and elsewhere, should be calmer, but still a bit breezy here for the coast. So that should help, at least in the fire weather risk. In fact, let's take a look at that. So if we start seeing yellows and oranges, yellows are moderate fire weather risk, oranges are high, and of course green is low. And the numbers you see there, that's your relative humidity. So later this afternoon, we're going to be the high fire weather risk for much of the valley, with single digits for the most part for those relative humidity levels. So still very dry, still hot, and that increases that fire weather risk. Now, with the winds blowing pretty strong tomorrow morning, we're going to be well into that moderate range for Wednesday morning, and then Wednesday afternoon with those winds still fairly strong, low humidity, we're still in that high fire weather risk. The good news is, though, as those winds die down, as we saw on Thursday, we're going to be looking at more in the way of low to moderate fire weather risk. So conditions will be improving when we're at least talking about our fire weather forecast. Summer heat has arrived, and the gusty winds are setting themselves up since yesterday, really the last few days. But as that low pressure really starts to weaken, so will the winds, especially by Thursday into Friday and the weekend. Now, speaking of the weekend, that bubble of heat will eventually move over us, and temperatures will increase as a result. And then they start to drop again going into early next week and really going through next week. You see that on the 10-day trend, temperatures slowly dipping as we go into Wednesday, Thursday, back up to over 100 degrees for Redding through at least Tuesday, and then dropping back down possibly into the mid-90s by near the end of next week. All right, so let's go and take a look at our forecast for today. Upper 90s, about 100 degrees in the valley, 80s for many of the higher elevations, although Trinity County, inland, you're going to be in the mid-90s, mid-60s for the coast. Tonight, should these winds materialize as expected, I'd say those overnight lows may be closer to the 70s for the north end of the valley, like Redding, Cottonwood, and Red Bluff, and then probably closer to the low to mid 60s for the south end of the valley, where the winds may not be as strong, especially on the east side around Chico and Oroville, for example. But there you can see in the mountains, you're in the 40s and 50s, low 50s for the coast here for tonight. Let's take a look at your 7-day forecast for the valley. Hot, any way you look at it, right? Upper 90s, about 100 degrees here through Friday, and most likely over 100 degrees by Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. All right, let's take a look at your coast, inland, and Trinity County. So the coast, mid 60s, give or take, for the next 7 days. Inland, low 90s through Friday, mid to upper 90s through the weekend and early next week. That's pretty much the same start, although I would say low to mid 90s for Weaverville through Friday, upper 90s to about 100, and maybe a chance for those afternoon thunderstorms on Sunday, Monday. That's also the case for Siskiyou, Modoc County, and the Eastern Mountains, and those temperatures are also going to be increasing as we go into the weekend.
At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.